Here are the stories shaping the world this morning and why they matter. In Colombia, the confirmed death toll has risen to 169 after a magnitude 7.4 earthquake struck the west of the country on Monday morning. The U.S. Geological Survey said the quake hit around 7:30 a.m. at a depth of 110 kilometers. Pereira, near the epicenter, has reported collapsed multi-story buildings, with rescue crews and volunteers searching rubble for survivors and authorities, warning that aftershocks remain a risk. More than 570 people were reported injured in early accounts. Damage was also reported in Cali, about 160 kilometers from the epicenter, where the mayor said at least 20 structures had collapsed and rescue operations were continuing. Colombia's president has pledged a thorough national response. For families in the affected region, the immediate needs are urgent: medical care, shelter, clean water, and reliable information about missing loved ones. The scale of volunteer rescue work is also notable, with ordinary residents joining emergency workers in the difficult first hours, when survival can depend on speed, coordination, and access to damaged neighborhoods. Russia and Ukraine have traded another round of deadly strikes, with civilians killed on both sides of the border. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Russia used North Korean ballistic missiles in recent attacks, and he again called for tougher sanctions and more air defenses. In Ukraine, 6 people were reported killed in Russian attacks on Zaporizhzhia, and air raid sirens sounded in Kyiv during missile barrages. A Russian strike on an apartment block in Kharkiv killed 3 people and wounded 37, according to local reports. Ukraine, meanwhile, said it struck an oil refinery in the Orsk area of Russia, a sign of Kyiv's continued effort to hit Russian energy infrastructure far from the front line. Russian officials claimed Moscow's forces had captured villages in the Zaporizhzhia and Kharkiv regions. In Russia's Belgorod region, officials said a Ukrainian drone attack killed 5 people and wounded 25. Another Ukrainian drone attack inside Russia was reported to have killed at least 13 people, including a child. The human impact remains stark. Families sheltering from missiles, workers trying to keep power and transport systems running, and communities on both sides facing a war that keeps expanding beyond the battlefield. In Japan, recovery work continues 2 weeks after a magnitude 7.1 earthquake struck Kumamoto Prefecture on July 28th. Nearly 4,000 residents were still in evacuation centers, and officials in Yatsushiro City said they had received more than 800 requests for help. Volunteers have continued arriving across the region, supporting cleanup, delivery of supplies, and care for older residents and families who cannot easily return home. The disaster has also raised new questions about workplace safety. Aeon said some tenant workers were briefly allowed back into Aeon Mall Kumamoto after an evacuation, before a deadly explosion at the mall in Kashima killed 7 people. The company said workers had sought personal items such as vehicle keys and mobile phones. Aeon acknowledged that its existing conduct rules did not clearly specify what should happen after an evacuation, leaving decisions to on-site staff. The company apologized and said it would revise its rules, allow employees to carry valuables while working, and use an outside investigation committee. For workers and families in disaster zones, that kind of policy detail can matter. Clear rules can reduce pressure on employees to re-enter unsafe areas and help prevent secondary tragedies after the initial emergency. In the United States, President Donald Trump has signed an executive order changing childhood vaccine recommendations, reducing the number of diseases covered by recommended inoculations from 18 to 11. In Oval Office remarks, Trump repeated a discredited claim linking vaccines to autism, a claim rejected by major medical research and public health authorities. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., long known as a vaccine skeptic, is central to the administration's health policy direction. Critics warn the change could further reduce vaccination rates at a time when U.S. measles cases have reached their highest level in 35 years amid declining vaccine uptake. The practical concern is not abstract. When vaccination rates fall, outbreaks become more likely, especially in schools, child care centers, and communities with limited access to health care. Infants too young to be fully vaccinated, people with compromised immune systems, and families without flexible work schedules often carry the greatest risk. Public health officials who oppose the change say the priority should be clear: evidence-based guidance that protects children while rebuilding trust through transparency, access, and respectful communication with parents. In Syria, a court in Damascus has sentenced former dictator Bashar al-Assad to death after convicting him in absentia of war crimes and crimes against humanity during the country's civil war. Assad is in Russia, so he was not present for the proceedings. The charges cited included torture resulting in death, deprivation of liberty, and multiple counts of abduction. Syria's civil war killed more than 500,000 people and displaced millions more, leaving families scattered across the region and around the world. The ruling is symbolically significant for survivors who have spent years demanding accountability for prisons, disappearances, bombardments, and mass displacement. But enforcement remains uncertain while Assad is outside Syria and protected by his presence in Russia. For many Syrians, justice is not only about a sentence in court. It is also about finding missing relatives, documenting crimes, rebuilding destroyed towns, and securing conditions that allow refugees and displaced families to return safely, if they choose to do so. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has rejected President Donald Trump's 15-point Gaza peace plan, creating a public split with the U.S. leader over the terms of ending the war. The proposal required Hamas to fully disarm before an Israeli withdrawal and before Palestinians gained independence. Netanyahu, however, demanded complete disarmament up front before any phased implementation, and said no Palestinian state would be established while he is prime minister, including in Gaza or the West Bank. Palestinians in Gaza responded with frustration, saying they wanted the war to end, and criticizing Netanyahu's rejection. The disagreement matters because the sequencing of disarmament, withdrawal, reconstruction, and political rights will shape whether any plan is seen as realistic by the people most affected. In Gaza, ordinary families are still trying to find safety, medical treatment, food, and shelter. In Israel, families continue to face the fear and trauma of attacks and hostage-taking. A durable peace will require security, accountability, and political rights, but the latest rejection underscores how far the parties remain from a shared path. Iran says it is close to a final pact with Oman on new shipping lanes through the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most important energy transit routes. But Tehran says the United States must first pay compensation, lift sanctions, and halt military threats before broader talks resume. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said the United States and Iran are not in direct talks, and Tehran says negotiations will not restart while Washington continues to breach an interim deal. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian said the Oman negotiations are aimed at escaping a state of neither war nor peace. Regional tensions remain high. Yemen's Iran-backed Houthis attacked a Saudi Aramco refinery on Sunday, according to reports. 2 days earlier, Saudi Arabia forged a defense pact with Turkey and Pakistan, pledging mutual defense and treating an attack on one member as an attack on all. For workers and families across the Gulf, the stakes include shipping safety, fuel prices, jobs tied to ports and energy, and the risk that military escalation could spill into daily life. In U.S. immigration policy, temporary protected status for immigrants from South Sudan and Burma is set to end after 2 federal judges sided with the Trump administration. More than 200 South Sudanese nationals are affected, along with an estimated 4,000 immigrants from Burma, also known as Myanmar. TPS has allowed people from countries facing war, instability, or disaster to live and work legally in the United States. Without it, those affected could face deportation. The development follows a U.S. Supreme Court ruling that ended TPS protections for immigrants from Haiti and Syria. At the same time, an Associated Press investigation found that more than 50 parents and spouses of active-duty U.S. service members have been arrested since Trump returned to office. At least 6 relatives of service members have been deported, according to the reporting. Private prison companies, CoreCivic and GEO Group reported a combined $1.4 billion in quarterly revenue between April and June as detention increased. The issue reaches beyond policy language. It affects caregivers, workers, military families, employers, schools, and communities that have relied on TPS holders for years. In Germany, regional elections in Saxony-Anhalt on September 6th could give the far-right Alternative for Germany its first chance to come to power in post-war Germany. The AfD was polling at 41%, well ahead of the center-right Christian Democratic Union, or CDU, at 27%. CDU candidate Sven Schulze is trying to stop the AfD's rise, in line with Chancellor Friedrich Merz's pledge to keep the far right out of power. Saxony-Anhalt has become a key test of whether mainstream parties can respond to public frustration over wages, migration, housing, and the cost of living without normalizing extremist politics. For many voters, the election is less about ideology in the abstract than about whether local government can deliver reliable public services, good jobs, safe communities, and a sense that rural and post-industrial regions are not being ignored. The outcome could shape not only the state's direction, but also Germany's broader debate over democracy, pluralism, and how established parties should confront far-right movements. In Russia, the Supreme Court has barred Yabloko from upcoming parliamentary elections by annulling the party's registration. The ruling followed an appeal from a pro-Kremlin party. Yabloko has been described as the only political party still openly opposed to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The decision comes amid a broader Kremlin crackdown on dissent, independent organizing, and anti-war voices. For Russian voters who oppose the war or want a political alternative, the ruling further narrows the already limited space for lawful participation. It also sends a message to local activists, candidates, election monitors, and civil society groups that even long-established parties can be pushed out of formal politics. The consequences reach beyond party leadership. When political competition shrinks, ordinary people have fewer ways to challenge decisions about military service, public spending, inflation, corruption, and local governance. The move is another sign that Russia's wartime political system is becoming more closed, with institutions increasingly aligned around the Kremlin's priorities. In Libya, authorities say unknown assailants carried out a drone attack that set a major gasoline storage tank on fire at the Zawiya refinery. It was described as the third attack in recent days on the facility, Libya's largest operating refinery. Libya holds Africa's largest oil reserves, but the country remains divided between rival governments competing for control over state institutions, territory, and energy revenue. Attacks on refineries do not only affect export markets or government budgets. They can disrupt fuel supplies for households, hospitals, farmers, transport workers, and small businesses already dealing with instability. Fires at storage tanks also pose environmental and health risks for nearby communities. The identity of the attackers has not been confirmed, which adds to the uncertainty. Libya's energy infrastructure has long been a focal point of political conflict, and the latest strike shows how vulnerable essential facilities remain when national institutions are fragmented and armed groups operate with limited accountability. In Ohio, Governor Mike DeWine has said he believes the state should abolish the death penalty, a significant statement in a state with a long history of capital punishment. The issue is receiving renewed attention through the case of Keith Lamar, a death row prisoner who recently received a reprieve, giving his attorneys and supporters more time to fight his conviction. Lamar was sentenced to death for the murder of 5 fellow prisoners during the 1993 Lucasville prison uprising. He and his attorneys say he is innocent and was wrongfully convicted. His trial was held in a remote Ohio community before an all-white jury, according to accounts from his supporters, and he has spent more than 30 years in solitary confinement. The case has drawn wider attention through the animated short film The Injustice of Justice, narrated by Lamar and illustrated by Molly Crabapple, which won the grand prize for Best Animated Short Film at the 2025 Golden State Film Festival. Beyond one case, the debate raises basic questions about wrongful convictions, racial bias, the mental toll of isolation, and whether the state should have the power to execute. Follow for a daily world brief. Sources are linked in the description. That's the world as